Hearing loud knocks at the door, followed by the words "FBI open up," might just be one of the most terrifying things ever. For law-abiding citizens, this knock at the door will likely never happen. But for the people on the FBI's most wanted list, it's merely a matter of time before the FBI comes knocking. Number 5. 83-year-old Eugene Palmer is one of the oldest people featured on the FBI's most wanted list. And for almost a decade, his face has been featured in wanted posters and documentaries across the US. September 24th, 2022 will mark the 10th anniversary since Eugene committed the crime that saw him added to that list. And for those 10 years, he's been able to evade detection. But what did Eugene Palmer do to put him on the list of the most dangerous criminals? And how has he so successfully avoided capture? In September of 2012, relations between Eugene and his daughter-in-law, Tammy, were frosty to say the least. Tammy was married to Eugene's son, John, and for a while there had been issues within their marriage. Being John's father, Eugene provided him with comfort and a listening ear, and did his best to mediate between the couple in the interest of their children. Eugene, in fact, lived next door to his son and daughter-in-law, and would often hear the two arguing. Things between the couple had gotten so bad that Tammy had filed a restraining order against her estranged husband, which of course made him and his father mad. Tensions were rising between Tammy and her estranged husband, and her father-in-law. The breaking point, at least for Eugene, was when Tammy put divorce on the table and threatened to take some of the land from John, which his father actually owned. Squabbling ensued, and soon the father and son were at Tammy's throat, and there were a few public altercations that almost ended badly. The relationship between Tammy and her estranged husband had completely broken down, and with the divorce pending, the two were glad to be rid of one another. Unfortunately, Eugene would intervene and remove Tammy from the picture permanently. John was frustrated with his wife, but accepted that the two children had resulted from the marriage, and that the two would need to move forward in the best interest of their children. On September 24th, 2012, Eugene's anger boiled over, culminating in a horrific act. As Tammy walked back to her Stony Point, New York home after dropping the two children off at the bus stop, Eugene lay in wait. The arguments of the last few weeks and days were circling around in his head, and anger clouded his judgments. As Tammy neared her home, Eugene attacked her, first from a distance before moving in closer. When all was said and done, Eugene jumped into his Dodge Ram and slammed his foot on the accelerator. Tammy's body would later be discovered, and the police were called to the scene to investigate. After discovering that Eugene's truck was missing, and after interviewing those closest to Tammy, it became clear to investigators who was responsible. Forensic evidence obtained from the scene also helped investigators to confirm their suspicions, and with the threat of a fugitive on the run, they amped up their investigation. It wasn't until May of 2019 that Eugene was added to the FBI's most wanted fugitive list, after the police had failed to find him. In the weeks after the crime, a federal arrest warrant was issued, but despite the best effort of investigators, no trace of Eugene was ever found. Many believe that Eugene has since passed away, but others believe that he's living somewhere off the grid. Eugene's family described him as an expert survivalist, and the discovery of his abandoned car in the Harriman State Park only added fuel to the fire. Is Eugene Palmer living off the grid in a state park? Or has he fled to other parts of the US, or even further in the 10 years the FBI and law enforcement have been looking for him? There's currently a $100,000 reward for information that leads to Eugene's arrest. He's described as a white male with gray balding hair and brown eyes. He's 5'10", 220 pounds, has a deformed left thumb, diabetes, and a heart condition. Eugene Palmer is wanted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, and should be considered armed and extremely dangerous. Anyone with information is asked to contact the FBI's New York field office at 212-384-1000. Number 4. As of 2022, Jose Villarreal Hernandez, also known as El Gato, will be 44 years old, and for almost 10 years, he has gotten away with one of the most heinous crimes in Texas history. Jose is an alleged leader of the Beltran Leyva crime syndicate that operates throughout Mexico and the US, and has connections to some very powerful and very scary people. These crime syndicates and operations are not to be messed with, and when Jose's father passed away, he knew that revenge was his only option. Jose believed that a rival group, the Gulf Cartel Group, had been responsible for his father's passing, and knew the perfect way to enact his revenge. Instead of going after other members of the group and sparking an all-out war, Jose chose instead to go after Juan Jesus Guerrero Chapa. Chapa was your average citizen. He went to work as a lawyer by day, and by night he went home to his wife and family and lived an ordinary life. The Dallas Morning News reported that Chapa was the personal lawyer of the Gulf Group and was also a US informant, while other sources alleged that he was involved with the group. Jose knew that taking Chapa out of the equation would hit the group the hardest, so in May of 2013, Jose and his crew hatched a plan. They managed to track Chapa down and found that he was living in Southlake, Texas. Jose paid 3 men to travel from Mexico to Texas to take care of Chapa. On May 22nd, Jose gave orders for the plan to go ahead, and while Chapa sat in the passenger seat of his wife's car, she put shopping bags in the back. That was when 3 men appeared and attacked Chapa. The incident was over within a matter of seconds, leaving no time for anyone to react. As quickly as the 3 men had appeared, they had disappeared and their plan was complete. Chapa was later declared deceased and the investigation began. Investigators called in the FBI and they quickly began to unravel the evidence, which all led to Jose Villarreal Hernandez. As Jose lived in Mexico, the FBI worked with Mexican authorities and also obtained a US arrest warrant for him. Unfortunately, Jose has been able to use his criminal network to stay under the radar and remains undetected to this day. Jose is described as a Hispanic male with black hair and brown eyes, 5'4" and 165 pounds. There's a $1 million reward that leads to an arrest, and anyone with information is asked to contact the FBI's tip line at 817-213-6640. Number 3. Pavel Aleklov and 2 others stand accused of being part of the infamous Center 16, a Russian hacking organization that is engaged in many attacks and operations on the US and numerous other countries. Pavel and his co-conspirators are FSB agents, which is the Russian equivalent of the FBI, making their crimes all the more heinous. For almost a year now, the FBI has been on the hunt for Pavel and others involved in the mysterious Center 16, also known as Dragonfly, Energetic Bear, and Crouching Yeti. With tensions between the US and Russia being at an all-time high, you may wonder what crimes Pavel is accused of committing and why the Russian FSB agent has landed himself a place on the most wanted person list in the world. Pavel and other agents were indicted in 2021 by a District of Kansas grand jury. According to the FBI's website, Pavel and the group he worked for hacked computers belonging to energy companies in at least 135 countries, including the US. Were these cyber attacks successful, Pavel and his associates would have had access to all of the systems belonging to the energy companies, and could have effectively crippled the entire system at the push of a button. These attacks would either send a message or work as a bargaining tool to allow the group to get what they want. According to the FBI, Pavel and his associates targeted global oil and gas firms, utility and electrical grid companies, nuclear power plants, renewable energy companies, consulting and engineering groups, and advanced technology firms. The FBI has not confirmed how many of these attacks were successful, but it appears that luckily the cybersecurity teams at these companies caught these attacks before they escalated further. The FBI is now seeking Pavel Aleklov and others involved in the Center 16 group. Pavel is described as a white male with blonde hair and blue eyes, and used the date of birth July 2nd, 1985. Pavel is considered an international flight risk by the FBI, and anyone with information is asked to contact their nearest FBI or American Embassy consulate. Number 2. Since 2011, Mushtaba Raza and his business partner Mushtaba Raza have been running a Second Eye solution from their home in Karachi, Pakistan. This website is only accessible via the dark web, which has picked up a reputation of being the home to anything and everything illegal. Customers of Second Eye Solution could purchase anything from national insurance numbers to driving licenses and passports from their country of choice. This then allowed customers to move to their country of choice and obtain further identity documents. The FBI quickly caught wind of this business and spent a small amount of time tracking Mohsen and Mushtaba. As a result, they found that the business, run by two men from an office, was in fact incredibly popular. One article states that by the time arrest warrants were issued, Second Eye Solution had netted over $1.5 million in Bitcoin transactions. All of this wealth had been amassed by selling electronic copies of fraudulent identity documents, and the FBI wanted to shut them down. The FBI indictment against Mohsen and Mushtaba notes that those who purchased their fake ID documents were able to defraud payment processing companies, e-commerce business, social media and social networking platforms, and virtual currency exchanges, both foreign and domestic, by gaining unauthorized access to online platforms provided by such entities. In January of 2020, the U.S. District Court issued a federal arrest warrant for both men. It's also been alleged that the fake ID documents made by Mohsen were used in the 2016 election. The FBI is now appealing to anyone with information to come forward. Mushtaba Raza, who may also go by Mushtaba Raza Amiri, is described as an Asian male with black hair and brown eyes. He's believed to be in his home country of Pakistan, and anyone with information is urged to contact their local FBI office or American Embassy or consulate. Number 1. 20-year-old Diego Alfonso is wanted by the FBI for taking the life of 41-year-old Marco Bishop on May 16, 2019. Since then, Diego has been able to avoid the authorities, and he is considered armed and extremely dangerous. There's very little information available about Diego and the crime that unfolded. However, the FBI has stressed that Diego's charges are serious and that he should not be approached under any circumstances. According to the FBI, on May 16, 2019, Diego attacked Marco Bishop near the Delta service station at the corner of 25th Street and 21st Avenue in Paterson, New Jersey. Following the attack, Marco was rushed to the nearest hospital. However, he did not survive his injuries, and a homicide investigation was immediately opened. Witnesses told investigators and the FBI that they had seen a man fitting Diego's description at the crime scene, and thanks to other evidence, the FBI were quickly able to link him to the crime. Unfortunately, since that day, local authorities nor the FBI have been able to find Diego, and in absence, the Paterson Municipal Court and the U.S. District Courts issued both state and federal arrest warrants for him. According to the FBI, Diego is wanted for unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, homicide, and possession of a weapon for unlawful purpose. The FBI have little to no intel on Diego and have no idea where he may be hiding. Diego is described as a black male with black hair and brown eyes. He's 5'6", 150 to 160 pounds, and may go by the names of Diego de Leon, Diego A. de Leon, Diego de Leon Mejia, or Diego Mejia. Anyone with information is asked to contact the FBI's Newark field office at 973-792-3000. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.